I think it's very appropriate that tomorrow, the 8th of October, is the feast in the Catholic Church of the martyrdom of Saint Sergius and Bacchus. Why? Because only a couple of days ago, Pope Francis suggested that gay people should be given a blessing in church, or that should be possible. And the story of Sergius and Bacchus is the story of two saints martyred, killed together, and there is a question mark about their relationship, and that has been explored by a number of academics over the years. It may be reasonable, it may be unreasonable, but it goes back to one particular sentence in an old Greek text. We'll come to that in a few minutes. So the basic story is that Sergius and Bacchus were both officers in the Roman army and stationed on the Syrian front. Sergey was the commander, and Bacchus was the sort of lieutenant or something like that. They were favourites of the emperor, Maximilian, until the emperor noticed that they shied away from entering the temple with him. So he ordered them to take part in the sacrifice. They both refused. They both proclaimed their Christianity. They were then stripped of their arms and rank and paraded through the streets dressed in drag. And that didn't humiliate them. And the threats didn't make them repent. And it had no consequence, and they didn't change their minds. They remained devoted to their Christian belief. They were then sent to Mesopotamia, where Sergius had an old friend. That old friend was then invited to judge the two saints. The governor had them both whipped so much that Bacchus died under the torture. His body was then thrown on the highway, where the vultures protected it, apparently, from the mad dogs that would otherwise have attacked it. It wasn't the only instance of that sort of story. Sergius was then made to wear shoes studded with nails that had been upended and thrust into the sole of the shoe, to where he was executed, where he was beheaded. And there are major churches in the great centres of Christianity in Istanbul, in Rome, in Cairo. So it's these are two very important saints, and now let me come to the crunch. And this is something that I suppose you will be familiar with if you have looked at your Wagner and the idea Blutbruderschaft, blood brotherhood, which flows through works of literature and music like The Ring Cycle. The crunch lies in a book by John Boswell. John Boswell died of AIDS in America in the AIDS crisis. And he identified Sergius and Bacchus as gay saints, and their relationship to each other is defined by a statement in the 10th century Passion of Sergius and Bacchus by Simeon Metaphrastes in the Menologion. Menologion is one of the prayers which turns up in the Orthodox Church on a regular basis in the liturgy. Now, in this paragraph by Metaphrastes, there's a line which describes Bacchus as Glycos eteros ke Erastes, the sweet friend or the sweet companion and lover of Sergius. Now, the word Erastes, I don't see that Metaphrastes could possibly have made a mistake there. The word Erastes is a technical term which you'll find on Greek pottery for the male dominant lover in a relationship, the active lover, and it's unmistakable. It can't be confused with anything else. It's still used occasionally in modern Greek. So the Catholic Church has said, "Oh no, 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 no! This passion of Sergius and Bacchus is fake." The Orthodox Church hasn't gone around sort of de-canonizing people, and in fact, there's not only are there churches in Istanbul and Cairo and elsewhere, there's also a good deal of painting on the Holy Mountain in Mount Athos, and there's a 16th century fresco of the pair, you can see here, by Theophanes the Cretan. It's found in the great Lavra of Athanasius on Mount Athos. You see they're both identified, O Agios Sergius, O Agios Bacchus, the Holy Sergius, the Holy Bacchus. And there's also this slightly gory painting from the 16th century Cretan painter Zotsis, and on the left you can see Bacchus being scourged to death, and on the right you can see Sergius with his head chopped off. Of course, Sergius had his head chopped off after Bacchus was dead, and above them is the inscription, which is a bit difficult to read. Martyrion ton agion Sergio Bacchu, the martyrdom of the holy Sergius and Bacchus. There are other. Here's a 17th century icon of Sergius and Bacchus, also from Mount Athos. So all of those icons are from Mount Athos. But John Boswell believed absolutely in a thing called adelphopoiesis, brother making, and his work has led to some modern icons being produced. Adelphopoiesis comes from two Greek words, adelphos meaning brother, and poio meaning I make. So a ceremony of brother making. And this is something that scholars have suggested took place throughout the medieval period, certainly in the case of the friendship between William Neville and John Clanvaux. It's something that you might find in the Knights Templar. It's something you might find in chivalric tales. And the Russian writer Pavel Florensky talks about it in his book The Pillar and the Ground of Truth. But it's also potentially there in Dostoevsky. You can find it in The Idiot. And there's a suggestion that this concept of same-sex union could form the basis of what Pope Francis is proposing in some form of blessing of same-sex couples that might find some sort of formalizing within the church in the next decade. So I think tomorrow's feast of St. Sergius and St. Bacchus is important in the sort of, I don't know, let's call it the bromance of two martyred saints in Christianity.